Awesome, everyone. It's an amazing time to be with you again today. It's time for Growth School. This is Dr. Abiodun Mustafa, and if you're hearing me, you're just knowing and you're getting aware that Growth School is live. Please do well to reach out to your friends, do well to send the link of this video to your friends, to those in your broadcast, to all those crushing on you and those you're crushing on, and let them come on here to learn from Growth School. Every time we come, it's always phenomenal. Last week we had Stephen Loyal sharing with us some phenomenal experiences on how we could build intellectual competence for global dominance. And today, I have an amazing guest, really beautiful, really phenomenal, very sonorous voice, and she has a voice that can touch your heart so well. All right, we had the privilege to meet on the 1st of July at my first TEDx platform where she shared a lot of amazing stories. So she's a teens coach. She's one who loves teenagers. She works with parents. She works with children. She works with schools, and she works with institutions that have things to do with teenagers. And she has been doing this for a decade. Like she has been doing a lot of phenomenal things, reaching out to young people, helping them transform their lives, and teaching parents how they can train their children effectively. And she's a graduate of mass communication, doing a lot of things. And she also graduated from the National Broadcast Commission. She learned broadcasting, and she's utilizing her skill of speaking, of broadcasting, to reach the globe and to transform the world. She's an award-winning teen coach who has been rewarded and given a lot of amazing gifts and prizes for doing the things that she does. She's a speaker. She's one who is also a co-host of a Things broadcasting program on Inspiration 92.3 FM in Lagos. And you would really love and learn a lot of things from her story. I don't want to tell you a lot of the things that will come because I had the privilege to be seated to hear her story and I was so thrilled by it. And I want a lot of people to come in right now and listen to this. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we say again, so we want to reveal something big. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Precious Flourish Ifeanyi. Welcome, welcome,
All
Precious,
right.
to Growth
Thank you
School.
so much. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I so much appreciate the opportunity to be on this broadcast with you. It is such a privilege I don't make light of. I want to thank you, first of all, for reaching out to me to be a part of this. I consider it an opportunity which I cannot take for granted. Thank you. And I want to appreciate everyone who's been watching and following this podcast. You are absolutely doing the right thing. I want to tell you that if you keep following this podcast, your life is going to move in the upward direction. You're going to pick a lot of lessons and gain inspiration from the stories and amazing, guests that get to be a part of this podcast. So once again, this is me celebrating every single person who, in one time or the other, has been a part of this podcast or is sharing the link. Thumbs up to you. So thank you again, everyone, for having me.
Awesome.
Like you
Thank you
said, my
so
name
much.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you,
Go,
sir.
go on.
Okay, thank you. So, like you said, my name is Precious Flourish Ifeanyi, and I am a teens coach. And beyond that, I'm very passionate about helping young people to to realize the strength that they have inside them, to realize how powerful they can become if they believe, if they work hard, if they push forward. And that's the message, that's the gospel I've been preaching for the longest time possible. And I believe that if young people will continue to push, beyond every boundary possible, they can absolutely get to anywhere they can, ever dream of. So that's my belief and that's my faith. So I want to once again use this platform to reiterate that. So in a couple of minutes, I'm going to be speaking to us on the topic of progressing beyond the past. I'm very passionate about this particular topic because it's something that I've lived, it's something that I've experienced, it's something that I've handled. Okay, I've been able to move beyond my past, particularly a hurting past. It's easy to say I've moved on when it's just something slight, but when it has to do with a hurting past, it's often very hard to do. Okay, so particularly in with young people, as we keep growing, we experience things, we encounter things, we get into situations, really hard situations, and sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it's just hard to move beyond that point. So my this conversation today is geared at helping us realize that we can actually move beyond any level of life, any pain that we've experienced in the past. Okay, so I'll be speaking to us, like I said, progressing beyond the past. So first of all, what is past? So past in this context is something that is uncomfortable, an experience or an action that was taken on you, something that happened to you, which is very uncomfortable, which is painful, which is hard. So oftentimes it has to do with emotional, it has to do with loss, it has to do with embarrassment, it has to do with disappointments or sad experience that we've had. So, because we know that there is always life ahead of us, we need to realize quickly how important it is to move beyond whatever past, whatever thing that we've experienced in the past. Like I said, we are young people, and it's possible to experience and encounter a lot of dynamics in life, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges. So all of those put together can weigh us down, can make us begin to think, oh, this is the end of life. In fact, people go as far as saying, I can't go to school again because of XYZ experience that I had. I can't do business again. I can't trust men. I can't trust women. I can't trust my parents. I can't love anyone. I can't push again beyond that because people have embarrassed me or people have said no to me. People have taken advantage of my innocence. People have abused the opportunity and privileges I gave them in my life, and then on and on and on. So often, all of the time, we are experiencing life, and we are making choices. We're making decisions. We're deciding whether to move forward or to stay stuck where we are as a result of our past. And that's why this podcast is here today, to encourage us and remind us that despite whatever you've experienced, there's life ahead of you. All right. So in a not in a short while, I'm going to also share my experience, which I hope one person or two could draw um, inspiration from. So first of all, let me also talk about why our past always hold us back. One of the reasons our past hold us back is because we don't see beyond our nose. We don't see beyond now. We don't see how that past can be a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block. We don't see how our mess can become a message instead of messing up our lives. We don't see how, the things that we've gone through or the experiences that we've had is any important, it's any helpful. We just feel it's the end of life, that's the end of the road, that I can't go anywhere beyond this point. But that's not true. That's not true at all, because after the rain comes sunshine, right? It is after it gets bright after it gets darkest. So all of those are sayings that reminds us the fact that it's not always bad. Beyond whatever experience that you've had, whatever past that you have, if you can realize that, okay, this is bad, but what can I make out of this? So if you know that there's a future beyond whatever experience that you've had, then it's easier to deal with that past. Whatever past it is, heartbreak, loss of loved ones, breakup, whatever it is. Maybe someone served you a breakfast and you're feeling so terrible, you're feeling like, I can't deal with this. I can't go beyond this point. I'm going to take my life. I've known people who took their lives because of experiences that they had. It's not necessary. I mean, I'm not taking for granted that it's hard. It actually gets to our emotion, but I'm also saying that you can move beyond that point. So one reason, like I said, people don't move beyond their past is because they don't realize that there's life after that. Another reason is because they don't see the gold in that situation. Let me share this. Whatever situation that you've gone through can actually become the raw material for your greatness. Bible is talking about Joseph. Joseph was sold. Joseph was hated by his brothers. Joseph was a slave. All of those added up to his becoming a prince. So there is no talent-free championship, right? Every championship, there's always a challenge. There's always a fight. You can't get it without a fight. There's always that stumbling block. There's always that, hurdle to cross. So if you can move beyond those points, then you can now see how that fits into your life, you can now see the golden lessons that those experiences prepared you for. It's like a gold. Before a gold becomes a gold, it must pass through fire. So sometimes people don't see the challenges that they are having as fire that they are passing through. They see it at an end. There's something I would always say that, there's a popular saying that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas that is also true, but me, I believe that I am the light in my tunnel. Because if I am having any experience and I'm hoping to see it light at the end of it all, I might get disappointed, I might lose faith, and all of that. But if I believe that I am the light in my tunnel, so no matter this fire that I'm passing through, I can be the very raw material for my greatness. So whatever is happening to me, I can decide to take this same message, this same experience, and turn it, in a way that it becomes valuable for me. For instance, I once saw a picture of two guys. One was an accomplished CEO. The other one was a drunk. You could see in that picture how this one is looking and how this other one is looking. And an inscription was on that story. It says, I am the way I am because my father was a drunk. For a minute, I couldn't get the message of that image. But after I looked at it, I realized that, okay, so these two guys are from the same parents. One decided, oh, my father was a drunk, and all I can become is a drunk. There's nothing I can do beyond this point. Life has served me as a drunk as a father. So I can't but become a drunk. I can't but take after him. And the other one, same story, same father, same experience, made a different decision. So he decided, I don't want to be like my father. So I want to be a kind of father that my own children would be proud of. So he did everything to avoid the lifestyle of his father. So he turned out to be a successful CEO. Now, what does the story teach us? It teaches that you can move beyond the point where you are to become something great, to become something phenomenal, no matter how bad the experience you're having looks. So we are the architects of our lives, right? You're the pilot of your life. You can decide to stare the same bad experience and use it for good, and use it for something meaningful, and produce something really great out of it. You can also decide otherwise because the choice is yours. So if you can see the gold in that challenge that you're going through, then you can begin to make headway. Another thing is that people don't see, another reason people don't overcome their past is because they don't open up, they don't speak to someone. You just have a challenge and you're going through it, you are bottling it up, you're going through it alone, you're saying nobody understands. If I tell you, you don't understand. Anyway, a lot of people do really care and understand. So if you find yourself in the right circle, you speak to the right persons, I'm sure that you can begin to heal, you can begin to overcome those hurting past, those bad experiences of yours. For instance, um, if you get into a hard situation, a hard experience, and you decide that, okay, you know what, I'm going to speak to someone. There's something they say, a problem shared is half solved. So when you speak to someone, first of all, you've been able to open up, so the pressure is a bit relieved. And secondly, you have a chance of getting an input that might make you, that can help you make adjustments, that can help you get healing, access help, and all that. But if you keep it all to yourself, no tree can make the forest. So if you keep it all to yourself, you're definitely going to stay in that ditch for the longest time possible. Right. So it's important that we find ways to talk to someone. That's how we can get past our situation. That's how we can get past our hurting experiences. I have a slogan that says open wound heals faster. So if you have a wound and you close it up, that wound will never heal. But if you open it up for doctors to give it attention, for nurses to administer first aid and all of that, there is a chance for that wound to heal. But if you close it up, that wound will decay, it will get worse, it will get more bad, right? So it's important that we, no matter what experience that we have as young people, as we're growing, we find ways to open up. Because if we don't, you're likely to get into, level 1 depression, level 2 depression, and get to the point where something starts suggesting to you that you can take your life, that it will help you relieve after all, and all of that. That's how it starts, because you fail to talk to someone. There's always that ear that is open. There's always that friend. There's always that mentor. There's always that coach. There's always that parent. If you don't have any of this, find them. Your life is your responsibility. You don't have to make decisions and make excuses because I had a bad experience. That's why I turned out like this. I'm into prostitution because I was raped. I'm into this because I'm into gambling because my parents didn't have money. There are people that have same story that you have, or even worse stories, but they've moved beyond that point to the point of greatness because they decided to change. They decided to speak to someone. All right. So it's important that you begin to ask yourself, who do I talk to? Think of who to open up to so that they can help you, so that they can advise you on what best to, do going forward. All right. Then another thing is, people always get into trouble with their past or get stuck with their past because they they don't have the right circle. I don't know how best to put it, but they don't have the right circle. See, if you have the right circle, if you have the right friends, if you surround yourself with the right friends, hardly will you get into a hard situation without someone watching your back. So that's why it's important ahead of time that we begin to cultivate meaningful relationships, great relationships, people that you know that you can talk to and tell exactly how it happened. If you kill someone today, you need to have that friend that you can tell the truth, and that friend can help you, move forward beyond that point, help you take the next right step. So that's why ahead of time you need to surround your life with the right relationships, right people. As you keep growing, consciously make efforts to put the right people in your circle so that when come what may, you have people to fall back to. Let's say that your business crumbles, you have friends that you can talk to, you have friends that can even raise funds for you to start again, that can open you up to opportunities, that will mention your name in meetings, in boardrooms, that will help you start afresh and start better. So you need that kind of friend. A whole lot. And I can't even forget to mention the place of God. Yes, the G factor. Very important because you can't do so much without God. So no matter what pain that you've gone through or you are going through currently, God is there. God can see you through. God can help you. God can bring you out of it all. So I'll share my experience at this point. I was sexually abused at the age of 5, 7, and 12 by some people that my parents trusted at every point in time. I didn't have the boldness to talk to anyone about it, particularly with my 7 years experience, the 70-year experience. So I was sexually abused by someone who my mother would always ask to take care of us at this, because she was not always available, she was not always at home. So she would ask him to take care of us, myself and my siblings. So he found his way to just, for some reason, pick more interest in me, and he was becoming this so overly caring uncle and so, you know, generous with me, giving me things, biscuits, sweets, money, and all. And before you knew it, he lured me, and he was taking advantage of me, not once, not twice, not thrice, over and over. And I couldn't speak to anyone. I held it. Long story short, I grew up realizing that something that was precious to me was taken away by someone who was supposed to be a trusted adult. It pained me, and I was in so much grief and anger for the longest time in my life, over 20 years, because I felt I hated men. I was bitter. I was just a shadow of myself. I had low self-esteem because I felt, who am I without being a virgin? Who am I without having the precious thing that God gave me from birth? Because the more you know, the more you grieve, the more you hear messages and hear people talk about the fact that, oh, if you're not a virgin as a woman, you're gone. Your husband would not, trust you, and also it kept making me feel like that's the end of life. How can I move beyond this point? I was bitter, I was angry. But the worst part was that I couldn't talk to anyone. And like I said, the worst thing that will happen to you as a young person is to have an experience and not be able to talk to someone. Because they say that offense is an outer disease, but bitterness is an inner cancer. So the more you harbor that bitterness, it keeps eating you up. It's like cancer, literally. It eats you up. You can't do anything. You can't face your classmates. You can't talk in class because you constantly compare and measure yourself with people in the class because you're constantly feeling, oh, I'm from the less privileged family. Oh, I'm the one that been abused. Oh, I'm the one that was raped. Oh, I'm the one that, does not have anything. And that message keeps building up. And you know the thing about life, whatever you focus on magnifies. Whatever you focus on gets bigger. If you focus on the good one, it keeps getting bigger. And It will also interest you that when I was in SS2, I was almost raped again. Right, like I escaped. I narrowly escaped rape, and then growing up, eventually I realized that, oh, because I was focusing on the wrong things, I kept attracting those evil to my life. I kept attracting those bad experiences, bad people into my life. People that want to take advantage of my life, my sexuality, my money, and everything. So, but when I realized that I was the one that was hurting myself by focusing on the wrong things, because come to think of it, I wanted to just take a look around your environment and then focus on just one particular thing, you will notice that the more you look at that thing, the bigger it gets, and the more you can't even seem to see the rest of the things in the room. That is how it is. The more you focus on the experiences of bad, hurting experiences of your life, the more bigger it gets. So, but when you realize that, okay, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm done feeling pity on myself. I'm done feeling bad. I'm done feeling like the less privileged person. I'm coming out powerful because I believe, just like Joyce Meyer will say, you cannot be pitiful and powerful at the same time. You can only be one. You cannot be pitiful and also be powerful. If you want people to just pity you and say, hey, yeah, such your life. Oh, is that what happened to you? Time, men are evil. Yes, and bad. That's all you get. But if you decide to step beyond that point, you become so powerful because now you are responsible for your life. Now you're responsible for moving yourself forward. So you begin to ask yourself more creative questions like, okay, what do I do with this pain? Okay, what do I do beyond this? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to, how can I harness this pain into something more rewarding? And that's when your brain kicks into action. But if all you do is just be gloomy and livid and all of those, that's all about it. And nobody gets rewarded for being bitter. There's no Guinness Book of Record anywhere for bitter people. There is absolutely no reward. It is only people that pushed beyond their boundaries. And that's what young people should do. We should find every opportunity and chance to push beyond our boundaries, to push beyond our limits, to do the incredible, to do the phenomenal things, the things that people are looking at and saying, nobody can do this. You will stand up and say, I can do it, and you go ahead and do it. No matter your background, no matter your situation, no matter your experiences, whether good or bad or evil, all of them work together for the good of them that love God. Isn't that what the Bible says? So I want to challenge young people who are listening to this podcast to say that no matter how bad your experience is, you can move beyond that point. Because sometimes you can be saying, this guest that is talking, I beg you, you don't even know my story, you don't even know how bad my background is. I beg you, your own is even easy. Do you know what happened to me? Guess what? There are people that have worse experience than you and they've been able to move forward. The choice is yours. You can be where you are or where you will be, all as a result of your choice, all as a result of the decision you will make today. And I want to challenge you to make the right decision. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. That's phenomenal. I told you guys to just get ready because what was coming was going to be fire, and that's still just little. I was almost trying to see whether you would come back to that story you shared, July 1st, and a lot of people just sit down and be like, oh, maybe my own is the first. Oh, people
Yeah.
don't understand what it's like. Oh, I know. It's just like how most times when I come up and share my story, people look at me like for real. And you come out and say like it's nothing. You come out and say like it's something so small. Do you think is that easy to want to kill yourself? So, but I find out that even from what you've shared, that there is always a point when you have healed, and there are instances where you are not even sure when the healing took place. It's more like someone who is always taking a medication. You just woke up one morning, you didn't know the exact time when that healing happened, but you just know that you have
Absolutely.
healed. You just know.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be like my first leading question. Looking at going through over 20 years experience battling with a lot of those issues, and you just found out something like, how come I'm no longer bitter? How come this is not out of the way? How come I can now smile even when I remember what was a pain to me? So at
Yeah.
what point in your life did you know, like did you realize that you have actually healed? because this can be very difficult to find out. It could be very, very difficult. Like you just wake up, you could just feel like, oh, I know I'm healed. I know that experience is no longer there. But I know a lot of people don't know the process you have to go through in order to come out of it. So, at what point in your life did you just find out that, okay, now I know I'm healed? Like, now I know those things no longer affect me. Now I know that all the things that happened to me at 5, at 7, at 12 are no longer issues. Now I can smile and overcome them. At what point in your life did you realize that, oh, precious, you are really healed? Because let me come back to even saying it, even though I've asked the question, because it's very easy to say, oh, I'm okay, I'm healed, I'm okay. But you'll find out that at some point in the people's life, those people who say I'm healed, they still exhibit the pains that they've been through. Like it's easy to say, oh, I'm healed, I'm okay, I've forgiven him, I'm all that. But when the next guy comes, you still
Yeah,
express the pains of the
of the
previous
past.
relationship on that guy.
Absolutely.
You still experience the
Absolutely.
thing. So I knew there was a point because yes, when we met, when we spoke and listening to you, I knew this is someone who have been through a lot of healing process and now is healed, smiling, happy, delighted. Like you even talk about it as if it's nothing now, but it's not that easy. I know it's not that easy. So
Oh,
just
you're
share with us,
right.
at what point did you know that you were healed? At what point?
Okay, so it will be very difficult. Honestly, it will be very difficult to say it was at this point that I knew and I knew my healing was complete, but at least I can tell when it started. So it started the time I said enough is enough. It started the time I called myself for a meeting. I, me, and myself, three of us came together to say, hey, you can't keep wishing it didn't happen. Because each time I wake up, I say, you know how you are literally wishing the past had, you wish that the hands of time will go back and then that moment will come and then you say, no, 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 leave me, don't touch me. No, no, I'll now run to my mom. I'll not say, mommy, 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 somebody wants to touch me. I was having all those dreams. I was wishing like nothing. I was wishing for it more than I was wishing for the second coming of Christ. I kid you not because I kept thinking that my life will never make progress beyond that point. I needed to get that thing back. But come on, it was gone. So every day I was living that. So I had to. It was I was losing my mind. I was losing my mind. I was losing my mind. So I just called myself up for a meeting. I said, Precious, you know what? You need to stop this. If life is going to make it, you need to stop this. Now, it was, I cried that day. I wept. It was not like the first time, but for the first time, I sat down. I told myself, you need to stop. Now, after that was when I left secondary school about 18 years. So I joined an organization called FECA, Federation of Colleges and Students Christian Association. So when I joined them, I started having a deeper relationship with God, and then I started having more a deeper conversation with God. So I told God, this thing is hurting. This is painful. I can't deal with this, and it's more painful because I can't even tell anyone. My mom thinks I was a virgin at the time. So each time she's talking to us, each time she says, hey, you people, I'm so proud of you. You know, you are virgins, keep it. It hurts me more because I can't even tell my mom. And it was more painful because she trusted this guy. And I couldn't tell her because I felt it would break the trust she has for this guy. So I was lost in between the deep blue sea. So I decided that, you know what, I was going to stop that. And then when I joined our organization, I started having a walk with God, a very deep walk with God. And then I started healing. It didn't happen completely. It wasn't a day one. It wasn't a day two. It wasn't in the first year. I have to be honest with you. It took me years. In fact, after like 5 years, 5, 6 years, I I felt okay. I was fine. I could talk to people, but I couldn't still share my story. I could talk to people to tell them, oh, no matter what I'm going through, I was beginning to be alive again. But it was after I met my mentor that he was a guy and he was a pastor. It was hard for me to trust him because he was so loving and he was reminding me of my past. Because this other guy was also so loving, so caring. He would come among all my sisters, he would carry me, he would take me to bathing salon, he would carry me while they're bathing my hair. Everything. So when this pastor, this my mentor, I was so skeptical because he was reminding me of the past. So, but it took a while. He told me, God sent me into your life to love you. I was like, really, love, this love thing that, no, 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 no. So I was being resistant, but after a while, I saw he was genuine because we had been together for a while and there was nothing, no bad conversation, nothing, everything was genuine. He was transparent, and I felt, is this not the right time to open up to this man? So I told him my story, and he told me that was why God brought me to your life. So he started talking to me, started giving me therapy, scriptures to read, declarations to make, and we kept going on and on, back and forth. I began that healing. Now, remember, as at the time that I was talking to him for the first time, it had been about 25 years. I was 25 at the time, right? So that day that I spoke to him in his office, I cried like never before. It was just like a burden, like it was like an explosion. I was sobbing uncontrollably. He just allowed me, he said, cry it all out because just then I'd been there for a while. I was crying, I was sleeping, I can't think of that now, I can't make it up in stories, but it was an encounter I had with God. Do you know, after that day, a week later, I was going home, he was driving me home because after having, so I was coming to his office almost all the time. So we keep talking and talking. He would give me Bible verse to read. I'll come back and all. So one day we were driving down home. I saw the man. After many years, I saw him. And as this time, he was pushing truck. I called him, Daddy, look at him. He said, look at him. I said, look at the man, look at him. He said, what? He parked. I was inside the car. Thank God it was a tinted car. I was looking at him. I can't believe this. I was looking at him. He was a shadow of it. He used to be this big giant guy. He had shrinking into something I can't explain. So that experience, after that day, I don't, did I, okay, so my pastor, my mentor, I like to call him my mentor. I don't like the word pastor. Not like I don't like it, but in this sense, I like to regard him as my mentor. So he asked me to go down and greet him. I said, what? Do what? Daddy, please, let's go. He said, go down and greet him. I said, you don't want, no. He said, boy, you are here. I said, no. So he allowed me because he knew the work is not done. So we went home. About 1 month after, I saw him again. This is like, I've not seen him in years. So after that, I came back, I told him, I said, you know what? I think I need some time. So he said, no problem. We're still dealing with that back and forth, talking, praying, trusting God and all. And I was still living my life. I mean, it was like surgery, right? It was like the surgery was being performed in my heart because I hated him to the point that, we had, I told you he was so fond of me that he will always take us to studio, we'll snap, we'll have loads of his pictures in my house. So I would take his pictures and I'll take a pen and I'll puncture his eyes with a pen. I would sometimes use scissors, cut off his head, cut it into pieces. I was just doing everything to get back to him, but it wasn't getting to him because he's moved on, and here am I stuck, suffering in bitterness. So after that experience, I went for service 2018, 2017, 2017, 2018. So when I came back from service, my mentor told me it's time to go and visit him. He said, visit. By as at this time, I was already getting very okay, but in my heart, I was saying, God help me. I want to appreciate, I want to love. In fact, there was something that an angle that he brought. He said, do you know if this guy was sexually abused too? Because research has it that those who are abused are likely to abuse others. And by the way, hurting people hurts others. So what if he's hurting? And this is a way of expressing his hurt and his bitterness and all. Who knows what experience he had growing up too? So it's just that you are choosing to respond different. So better respond completely different. He talks to me and talks to me and talks to me. I didn't know at what point, like I said, but I was gradually healing until I told him, sir, I want to go. And then on that very day, I went to him twice actually. So the first time I went, I heard it was my mom that told me that he had an accident. So he was pushing his truck and then he hit something and then the truck threw him off, and then he landed with his spinal cord in a gutter, and then he was there for many until, but even radio and TV, some TV stations covered the same error and all that. So he passed out for a long time. So he had a very terrible accident. So eventually he was very down at the time. So I decided to go pay him a visit. So I bought stuff and dinner. I saw him. Did I? Okay, no. The first day I didn't see him. I think I dropped the things I bought. For the second time I went, I bought all the stuff. I didn't have his number. It wasn't necessary. So I went there and I looked at him. You know how you move from 100 to 10? That's a typical example of it. He was still living in the same house. I'm 33 now. So if that experience happened, and I guess he was living there even before I was born, or maybe I don't know at what point, but if he was working he was working in the same compound where we were living, and he was living 2 poles away, right? And that was years back when I was 7. I'm 33. Guys, he was still living in that same one room apartment, same compound, dilapidated. He had shrinking into hundreds of heads inside. I said, so is this the reason I've been dying and holding myself down? Because this is not worth it. You know, that experience it revealed a lot to me. I mean, two things would have happened. It would have been that he had asked for God's forgiveness and he has moved on and he's now this big guy, or he's now this small person, terrible person. But either way, this person, is this why I've been beat? I was like, guy, you didn't do well. Hey, you were suffering for nothing. Look at now, like you're supposed to pity this guy. Do you understand? So after that, I spoke with him and told him, you know what, I'm forgiving. I think he was also losing his senses because when I came, he was even identifying me as our last born. I said, it's me. I called my native name. I said, it's me. He said, okay. So he was doing laundry outside. He was washing his clothes. His story is very coherent. He was just talking, telling me about this and that. So anyway, I prayed for him and I told him, I'm forgiving you of whatever things I did. And I gave him some money, gave him the things I brought to my lips. And as I left, that was it. He was like a ceiling, an icon on the key. And now I can stand on any podium and preach and talk about my story because I know that it's not stopping me anymore. In fact, I was thinking it to stop me from getting married because the way they were preaching it to us back in the days was like the pride of the woman. If you lose it, there's nothing else for you. My husband till today worships me. Like literally, he wakes up all the time thanking me for marrying him. He keeps saying, I'm blessed, I'm privileged, I don't deserve you. He says it before my friends, before my family, in the secret, in the open, and that's what it is. So I know that if there's anything I've loved and I've enjoyed, it is my marriage. And this experience did not stop it at all. So that's the most I can say.
Awesome. This is really, really great. Like, thank you for so much of that knowledge. Um, just as a follow-up questions, like you said, very, very important things, which I think if people really paid attention to, they would have gotten a lot of the points. I want to ask, how did your mom feel eventually after she heard all this? Because I knew this someone she trusted when you were young, someone she felt, oh, I just believe him. Like I know they are fine with him. I was somewhere where I needed to speak in a school. All right, they had like an anniversary and sort of graduation. And I was telling parents the reason why they need to be cautious. And sometimes when their children want to speak, they should be willing to listen.
Oh,
Because
exactly.
you'll see a lot of parents eventually when they now hear the story, like they now begin to cry. But I wanted to tell you, you were not listening. I wanted to let you know what I was going through, but you're not listening. So how did your mom feel at the end of the day? And secondly, there's someone right now who feels your story is small. It's like you don't know what I've been through. Like mine is so worth. How
Mm.
easy was it for you to move on? How easy was it for you to move on? I could project your
Super.
answer. I could project your answer, but I
Okay.
don't want to say what it will be. Like, how easy was it for you to move on? Even if you would tell
Okay,
me
so
not easy, how was it not easy? Like, people just believe, oh, like, for example, just like you mentioned, I was also getting lessons that I feel those who are coaches for teenagers or those who want to inspire teenagers should always look out for. That their healing would always take a process, and don't expect them to trust you at the first instance, because they are going through a lot in their head. There are people who just give up on people and say, okay, so you don't trust me. With all these things I'm doing, you are not trusting me now. And right now, you're doing, oh, yeah, go and meet the mentors that will listen to you. And for a lot of people, they just need to understand this thing. So your mom had, because I believe right now your mom is aware of what happened. How did she feel at the end of the day? And how easy is it to just move on? How easy is it to move on?
okay, right, well, first of all, she was shocked. She was not. She didn't see it coming, of course. She didn't know. So um, I felt, in fact, I didn't make a big deal of telling her. So it wasn't like a solo moment because I didn't want her to feel bad. I didn't want her to feel, oh my, I'm a failed parent. Yes, she made a mistake. She went. She was an amazing. My mom is my role model in many ways, right? But in this particular way, she didn't do well, and she didn't know better. That's why I keep telling to these parents, you know better. You can't hear these things and not do well. You can't hear these things and not connect. It starts with connecting with your children at a younger age, so that when things happen to them, you're the first person they talk to, and you don't judge them, and you don't make conversation with you hard. So you make it easy such that they can always talk to mommy. They know mommy got me. I can talk to mommy. So like I said, I didn't make it. I just thought that I just felt I should mention this thing to you. In fact, I want to make a movie with my story, so I'm planning it. So just in case, so that I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want to worry her with it. It was a detail that I felt wasn't necessary. But the more my story was coming to light, I was sharing it in many ways, in many places, and we've brought her to social media. So she's now on Facebook, and she sees my posts and all that. So I felt to give her that respect, so she doesn't stumble into it herself. So it wasn't a big deal. I met her. I tried to control that situation, and she's good. So and then so how I healed. I mean, like you said already, it wasn't easy. It was hard. It was terrible. It took a while. So, but because I was bent on, particularly because I also wanted to use my story to help others. So I think it's about finding purpose in your pain. So because I wanted to use my experience to teach others, I started quickly to see why it was important that I heal, so that the story will make sense. Because the story will not make sense if you're still hurting. Today, I can tell anyone about my story. Anyone, what will you do to me? Will you beat me? You will not beat me. And you're not my husband. And my husband gives me mic to share the story. So he's not bothered. So, initially before I got married, I was feeling, oh, won't my husband, somebody of mine feel, oh, I'm sharing this thing so much. Because before I got married, I was already sound, I was already healed. And that's another thing. You need to be, otherwise you carry that baggage. So, but my concern was that I hope this person will be okay with me sharing this. And I asked God to give me that kind of a blessing. And that was exactly what happened. So I have no interest on any conversation that will make me want to hide one, because it's part of my identity. My baggage is part of my identity. My experience is part of my identity. It's part of what brought me here. So I can't deny it. I can't allow it to define me though, but I can't also deny it. So it was hard, it was painful, but I had to move in.
So, Mr. Frying, kudos to you, Mr. Ifeanyi Chuku. This is Growth School giving you kudos. Thank you for treasuring your treasure, all right, and handling your precious virtue preciously. All right, so going on from here, I have to take two questions from now because I know you have to move on to something very, very key right now.
Absolutely.
So I really respect your time. So I will just go on to two very important questions, and then we take it together and find a way to wrap up. Now, the next question I really want to ask you is, how did you begin to understand? I know you mentioned this because right now you talked about we should open up, speak to people, speak to the right people. But there are people who have spoken to people and then the wound have gotten worse than it used to be. So at what point do you begin to identify that this is the right person? I can trust this person with my story. I know I will get outcome out of it. Because for lots of people, it has been so unbearable to the point that they now believe they could just be in their shell and hide their wounds. So how do you identify the right people in speaking up? And then secondly, you talked about the fact that you move from just saying, I'm forgiving, oh, I'm fine, I've healed, to now expressing your forgiveness. There are people who can easily say, I kneel down to God, God, I forgive all my offenders. Lord, I'm forgiving them. But when it comes to expressing that forgiveness, it's really
Yeah,
difficult.
it's hard.
So how do people do this? And lastly, I know I'm combining because of what you told me. Lastly, I want you to speak on moving on and making progress. Right now, you are online, sharing amazing stuff, doing amazing things, speaking on different platforms, invited to religious circles to speak, NGOs, radio program. Those things are now on, and you're making massive progress. So, how do you turn your pain into amazing progress? So, please, very quickly, just answer these three questions. Thank you.
I've lost track of the first question.
All right, number one, how do you know the right people to open up to? All
Okay,
right.
so let me take it one
Secondly,
after the other.
all
Let me
right,
take
all
it one
right.
after the other. So, how do you know the right people to follow? First of all, I didn't know there wasn't. I didn't read any manual to know. So it's not. I can't tell you it is like this. So, but I started to. I was willing first of all to open up. So because it's one thing to be willing, right? So another thing is I checked for it's like when you go to the hospital. When you go to the hospital, you literally open yourself. If they tell you to remove your clothes, you remove because you know this person cares for me. So we have that thing that helps us know exactly who cares for us, particularly um, when it has to do with emotional things. So you have to also be careful though, because some people can take advantage of that, like you said. So, but you can pray and ask God to lead you to that because He definitely can lead you to the right person. So, and then you can also check people. Don't be too fast to open up. Just give them in bites. Give them the first time bites. But then check how they handle the things you're telling them. And then your heart will also convince you that okay, I should talk to this person. Then you also need to know that if I talk to someone and he takes advantage of my secret and shares it anyhow or does something naughty, then they don't deserve my secret. Number one. Number two, it doesn't stop you, it doesn't reduce who you are. So don't feel bad that, oh, I told somebody about myself and then took it to extreme. Don't feel bad. Look for the next person. Life is not that hard. So don't hold too tight and say, I'll never talk to anybody. If you don't talk to anybody, how will you feel? How will you feel better? So always find the next person. If it doesn't work next, you will definitely get to the point where you feel. So then how I moved on beyond the past, which is the second question, I knew um, how I started from how I went from just knowing to sharing. So I decided that okay, I don't want this to happen to more young people. I don't want this to happen more to more children, more teenagers. So in fact, when I was doing my NYC service, I started what I called Watching Their Club. So in that, I was gathering all the young people in my vicinity and I was having this class with them every week, every single week, once a week, every Sunday evening. So I would call them, I would teach them sex education, poverty, things they should know. Because I knew their parents weren't having these conversations, and these were things that they should know. If they know these things, certain things will not happen. So I wanted to empower them because an empowered mind is, an equipped person. They can take decisions, they can make choices. So I did that. I was doing it. So I realized that not everybody will do what I'm doing, right? Not everybody will do what I'm doing in terms of having to speak up and say it. If your own is just going to be healed and be fine and move on, no problem, that's fine. You must not be precious if fine to now be sharing your story and telling everybody no. But the most important thing is that you're fine. And by the way, our purposes differ. So for some of us, it's just going to be fine. And maybe your story will not help you in how your experience will not help you in knowing how you raise your own children, right? So that's about it. So what have about your own content and you take it like that? I'm so sorry, I'm rushing right now. I have a lot of things I want to say in my head, but for one time, I'll cut it short.
Yeah, so tell us about your book. Precious Flourish Ifeanyi has an amazing book right now that is on round, and I believe everyone should know about it. Tell us about your book. Tell us about what you're working on. Tell us about how people can reach out to you and how they can get a copy of that book.
All right, my name is Precious Flourish Ifeanyi, like you said, and I wrote a book called Everything Team. the book is a guide, a comprehensive guide to help teenagers know how to navigate life, because teenhood is obviously often a time where a lot happens. It's a defining moment for young people. So there are certain mistakes they make during this teenhood that will follow them through life. So they need to be prepared. They need to know what they should know. There are conversations that parents will be shy with having, talking to them. I was not prepared for puberty. I stumbled upon menstruation. It's another story for another day. I thought it was just my elder sister that used to see her menses until the day it happened to me. I didn't know. I came back. I was accusing my sister for wearing my panties because I thought it was only her that experiences that. So because I was not prepared, a lot of parents, we don't have time, we don't find time to talk to our children to prepare them, because we feel, oh, if we tell them this thing, to spoil them and all that. They are edgy, they are not comfortable with having the conversation. So I shared in that book those things. I also shared stories of people, teenagers that have done exceptionally, well. Teenagers like Malala, Madina Nawanga, lots and lots of stories about teenagers that built a generator that is filled with urine, teenagers that built a aeroplane from scratch to finish in South Africa and flew it from Cape to Cairo. I said stories of teenagers like Emmanuel who invented a lot of things at young age. I shared lots of stories about young people, and I believe that that book can transform the life of any young person. I also shared. I can't just tell you everything in that book. I wrote that book because I felt, oh, I have a lot of teenagers that have come across me, and many of them I can't keep up pace with them. Many of them can't reach me as much as they want for some reason. So the book is supposed to reach out to them. That's why I have soft copies and hard copies. You can get it on Amazon and on Seller, and you can also order for the hard copy. My name is Precious Flourish Ifeanyi. Like the way it's appearing on the screen on Facebook, that's how you find me. I also have that as my Instagram name, Precious underscore Flourish Ifeanyi. You can find me, you can send me a DM, we can have conversations. If you feel you want to know how to have certain conversations with your teenager to prepare that, you can definitely reach out to me and I will guide you on how to do that. I also have a book I'm working on for parents, how to connect and bond with your teenager. I'm working on that book, and in no distant time before the end of this year, it should definitely be out, because it's a book I hope that will help parents to know how to engage the teenager, to bond and connect with the teenager, because it's important. You can't begin to request someone to be vulnerable and open to you when you're not connected to them. It's not enough to be a parent. Anyone can be a parent. Many are parents. Few are parents indeed. So you need to know what it means to be a parent, and what it means to parent a Gen Z, how to understand the Gen Z. So those are the things I'm trying to cover in that book, and I hope it will definitely be a lesson to African parents and to every parent that gets to listen and read. So thank you again for having me. I'm so delighted and excited to be here, and I hope to do more of this with you, Mr. Mustafa. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. This is me saying thank you for considering me to be a part of the podcast. It's a privilege I don't even think light of. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think you are trying to really escape my final question, which I ask every of my guests, but I will leave it for, let me say, part two series when you return back. And I hope when we invite you again, you will be willing to do this with us. Thank you. I would
Absolutely.
release you to go now and send you a message on WhatsApp. So your final words while you say bye bye to the audience.
My final word to you is, don't keep a dark secret. Open what heals faster. So whatever dark secrets that you have, open it up and get healed. Thank you.
Awesome, everyone. That's it from the phenomenal, amazing, precious, flourish Ifeanyi. So please do well, get a copy of that book. That book will change your life in no small way. All right, reach out to her. Go and rush our DM now on Facebook and on Instagram. Go and rush it. Bombard her massively and tell her you want to get a copy of the book. You have conversations that you're worried about, you have pains in your life, and you really need someone to talk to. I can guarantee you are in safe hands if you speak to Precious. Thank you so much, Precious. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Till I come your way again, and we'll do this again next week. Remain phenomenal, remain exceptional, open up your wood, be expressive, and keep changing your life every day. Bye bye.